Previously on Higurashi when they cry Kai, Chapter 8. That's why I felt I had to be their first ally in this village, so I could rescue them. I couldn't do anything about his stressful environment, but I could try to diminish the anxiety. So I thought the best way was to teach him how to vent his stress. And playing sports is the best way to do that. So I asked him to join the junior baseball team that I coach.
私は入り婿だ。だから、古出家の本当の血を受け継ぐお前とリカにはよく聞いてほしい。お前たちは普通の人間ではないのだ。
僕はお社様の生まれ変わりなのですよ。
リカ、そういうのは口にしてはいけません。あなた、そういう話はリカのいないところでしましょう。それでなくっても集会所のお年寄りたちがリカに妙なことばかり吹き込んで。
そのお社様の生まれ変わりというのがどうも本当らしいのだ。
は？
少し長い話になる。二人ともしばらく黙って私の話を聞きなさい。
When researching Hinamizawa's syndrome, there is something very important that needs to be discussed first. If something happens to the Queen Carrier, the village will collapse. In his article, my grandfather called it the most dangerous situation. According to my grandfather, if the Queen Carrier dies, all the infected persons will go terminal within 48 hours.
このよどみ切った村の悪兵は、そのよどみに住まう私たちにはどうしようもないのかもしれない。でも、希望をなくすものか。今にきっと、こいつらを打ち破ってくれる人がやってくる。今に、きっと。
Her eyes shone, as if seeing a future that only the maiden of the fruit shrine could see.
やめよ監督返事してくださいよ監督。
アホだな。死んでるに決まってんだろうが。
A loud noise snapped everyone out of it. Someone dropped the shovel he was holding. The shovel was smeared with reddish-black blood. No, not just the shovel. All 6 construction workers' clothes were blood-soaked, too. The old man said, "Let him go." When I heard his voice, I realized he wasn't my father. So I thought I'd arrest him for assaulting a policeman. But a young man like me, who'd barely grown any hairs yet, was no match for an older man used to fighting.
いや、たっぷり説教をもらいましたよ。大通りの真ん中でぶちのめされた挙句に。普通に考えたらそんなのに耳なんか傾けないですよね。でもあの時の私はどうかしてたんです。どうしてもおやっさんが親父に見えちゃって、おとなしく言うことに耳を傾けることしかできなかったんです。
But there is no question this man is at the terminal stage, and a live specimen is exactly what we need to research the syndrome.
一体この男は何者です？
あの男が持っていた新聞の包み、中に何が入っていたと思います？
これは何です？
There's something wrapped in a bloody newspaper on a tray nearby. Looking at the blood-drenched paper, I can only imagine there's something gruesome inside it. Yet Takano-san looked like she wanted to surprise me with something interesting.
これはひどい。
It's a bloody right arm. In my father's case, the symptoms weren't as obvious as a cough. They took the forms of changes in personality, which are much harder to recognize. If I had studied the brain more, I could have explained it better to my mother so that she could have understood him. They could have been a nice couple again in heaven. When I realized that, I cried. And I also realized there were plenty of people like my father in this world who are suffering from a disorder, yet they are misunderstood and despised for it. And then I found out. I found out about a miraculous cure for such disorders called a lobotomy. And so it continues. Greetings, my name is Neosekken, and welcome back to my Let's Play of Higurashi when they cry Kai Chapter 8. I think it's about time and that we see if maybe I could try to connect some of the fragments I failed to connect in the last couple episodes. And maybe then, right after that, look a little more into the sacrifice fragments. I think I got everything I need here to try this one, so let's do it. You serious? I can't? I don't think I have that one. Well, Satoshi has joined the baseball team, but is that really enough to connect this one? I'm not sure if Rika's consent to help out the research could qualify for this one. Not that one, none of that. I'm looking, but nothing's really jumping out to me, which is frustrating. Wait, I think I could try this one. Research is going well. There we go.
さん、お待たせしました。今、最後の検査を終えたところです。もうすぐ戻ってくると思います。
娘が村のために役に立てばいいのですが。
とんでもない。リカさんの協力は村を救うことにもなります。おかげでようやく治療方法にも目処がついてきたところです。仕組みはまだ調べているところですが、リカさんの存在がやはり村人にとってとても大切なものであることが分かってきました。レベルの進んでしまった一般感染者は自力ではそのレベルを下げて症状を安定させるのが非常に困難です。ですが女王感染者に接近することで脳内にある種の物質が作られることが分かっています。その物質には鎮静効果があり、また進んでしまった症状のレベルを抑え回復させる力もあるようなのです。
Shame that this never really came into play during chapters 2 and 5 when Rika tried to seduce Shion and try to calm down Reina in chapter 6.
この物質を処方できるようになれば治療の強力な決め手となるでしょう。
そうですか。リカにそのような力が。
Here she is, Nurse Killjoy.
驚かれるには値しないのでは。フルデの巫女には荒れた心、鬼を鎮める神追力があると代々伝えられているんではありませんでしたっけ？
You saying demons don't have souls, woman?
私たちが解明しなくても村の数百年にわたる歴史はすでにそれを知っていたわけですわ。
そうですね。大昔の方の聡明さは時に現代医学から見ても 感心させられます。
検査が終わったのです。
Hello, Queen.
リカ、大変だったな。疲れただろ。これで自動販売機でジュースを買ってきなさい。
血をいっぱい抜かれたから補給なのです。
Rika took the 100 yen coin that was offered to her and ran out into the hallway.
本当にリカさんの協力のおかげです。彼女が献身的に協力に応じてくれなければ、これほどまでに研究が進むことはありませんでした。
リカは自分の友達もその病気にかかっているということを気にしていて、友達のためにも協力したいと常に言っていました。どうか先生方、リカの心意気を汲んでやってください。
もちろんです。毎週日曜日に貴重な時間を割いていただいているのです。必ずや成果にしてみせます。今後もリカさんに過酷な実験を強いることがあると思いますが、どうかお許しいただければと思います。
彼女に危害を加えることは絶対にありませんわ。
Lies!
彼女はとてもとても大切な身なのです。何しろお社様の生まれ変わりなんですから。
大昔の村人はどのようにしてこの病気のことを知り、古田家にその女王の血が流れていることを知ったのやら。
Not gonna lie, that is a rather good question.
ご先祖様たちにはつくづく頭が下がります。
それで実はまた辛いご協力をお願いしなくてはなりません。
Maybe aliens had something to do with it, I don't know. Maybe Rika's idea, maybe Rika's theory here that aliens are responsible for this thing coming into existence might be true too, for all we know. I mean, why the fuck not? And no, I still don't believe aliens had anything to do with this sort of thing coming into existence, but I mean... but they had to find out somehow, I guess, so I mean... If we're gonna go something totally off the wall when it comes to explaining how the Onikafuchi village learned of this thing, then, well... You got either demons or aliens. Actual demons. And actual aliens. So, pick your poison, I guess.
彼女の脳脊髄液の採取のご許可をいただきたいのです。
Okay, I can definitely use this for another fragment I was looking at.
また場合によっては彼女の頭蓋に閃光を当て、直接頭部の中を検査させていただくことになるかもしれません。
You just want an excuse to mess with people's brains again, don't you?
頭蓋骨に穴ですか？
もちろん安全性には最大限注意します。リカさんはたった一人しかいない女王感染者なのです。間違っても危害を加えることがないよう、私どもで最も安全な方法を模索した上で提案させていただいています。
もちろんリカちゃんは女の子ですもの。頭部先行周辺の頭髪には気を使いますので、丸坊主にしてしまうようなことはありません。
How considerate of you.
ただ経過を慎重に見るためにしばらく入院をしてもらうことになりますが。
How inconvenient for her.
もちろんその間面会謝絶ということはありません。検査にもぜひ立ち会ってください。お父さんが身近におられた方がリカさんも安心するでしょう。
その検査はどうしても必要なもので、絶対に安全なものなのですか？
Depends on who you ask.
脳脊髄液の採取も頭蓋の潜行もどちらも 100% の安全を保証することはできません。常に 1% の危険があります。
Well, at least you're being honest.
またリカさんに身体的あるいは精神的苦痛を与えるでしょう。いくら重要な検査といえどもご家族の同意なしには行えません。
リカちゃんには 実はもう同じ話をしていますわ。
リカは何と？
自分は構わないと、それはもうあっけらかんと。
リカさんには危険や苦痛が伴う可能性があることをもちろん十分に説明しています。ですがやはり保護者の方の承諾をいただかないわけにはいきません。
リカは自分のことを本当にお社様の生まれ変わりだと信じている時があります。だから村人のために自分の身を捧げるのが自分の義務だと思っているところがあるのかもしれません。
立派なお子さんだと思います。
一応家内とも相談させてください。納得はしてくれているのですが、やはりことがことなので話をしないわけにもいかない。
ええ、ご家族の同意は不可欠だと思います。よくご相談なさってください。
その検査は病気の根絶のために重要な意味があるのですね。
はい、ひなみ沢症候群のベールを剥ぐ決定的なものになるでしょう。
Unless Killjoy over there has anything to say about it.
決定的なものの第一歩にですわね。
すでにご説明しておりますように、女王感染者に万一のことがあった場合、感染コミュニティに致命的な崩壊をもたらす危険性が予見されています。平たく申し上げると、村人全員が突如として末期発症を起こす可能性もあるということです。
ええ、急性発症の平均から見て、女王感染者死亡から48時間以内に全感染者が末期発症を起こします。それだけは絶対に防がなくてはなりません。
リカが死ぬようなことがあれば村中が大パニックに陥って恐ろしいことに。
はい、それを防ぐのも私たちの役目です。そのために危険を冒さなければならないのはとても皮肉なことですが、根絶のためには避けて通れない道だと思っています。
入江先生、必ずその検査を成功させていただけますか？
ですから医学には 100% や絶対などという。
ええ。
Yuri answered with a nod, interrupting Takano's vague response.
私入江京介がリカさんを救います。村人も救います。絶対にです。
わかりました。家内と相談させてください。その上で後日改めてお返事させていただきます。
はい、よろしくお願いいたします。
And what do you find so funny? After Rika and her father left, Takano started to laugh.
どうしましたか？何か愉快なことでも。
いえいえ、患者とご家族から律儀に事前承諾を取られていたのがなんだかおかしくって。
リカさんには本来無用の苦痛を強いています。それくらいは最低限の礼儀だと思いまして、去年の男も正常な状態にあれば事前承諾を取りたかったところです。
入江所長はここの研究を始められてからずっと罪の意識に苛まれているのではありません？
それはどういう意味ですか？
This type of teasing was normal from Takano, but maybe she had gone a little too far. Irie made it clear how displeased he was to hear that.
ひなみ沢症候群の研究は生きた人間を研究対象とすることでのみ進められる。それが分かってなお、あなたはこの研究を進めることに罪の意識を感じている。
罪の意識は必要です。殺人であれ、解剖であれ、相手に死を強いる点で変わりません。私たちはその罪を受け止めてなお その死を無駄にしないために最大限の努力と研究を重ねなくてはなりません。
ご高説ですわね。では入江所長、あなたはこれまで間違いなく非合法とされる実験を行う際、何度の事前承諾を取られたというんですの？
Going right for the jugular, I see. Irie didn't think Takano knew about that.
あなたの人の罪は脳の疾患によるものという独りよがりで、一体何人の患者が事前承諾なくあなたの研究対象とされてきたのかしら？
それは
常識は時代で変わる。当時は医者が治療をいちいち説明することなどなかったし、事前承諾なんて大したものではなかった。だから当時のことは気にしなくていいんじゃないですかしら。今は倫理上問題があっても当時は問題なかった。ならばいいじゃありませんの。でもそれに罪を感じているからリカちゃんやあの男にさえも事前承諾が取りたかった。
それは誤解です。そもそも治療と解剖では患者。
Well, going by your emotional reaction, I think she's hitting the nail on the head.
ねえ坊や、あなたが欲しいのは事前承諾という名の免罪符。そうでしょ？あなたが欲しいのは過去の罪をあがないたいという心を満たすだけの欺瞞、そのためだけの免罪符。後悔しているならば二度と脳に関わらなければいい。なのにだらだらと後悔しながらあなたはいつまでも未練がましくこの世界で脳に関わっている。その罪の意識が本物ならあなたはあの時所長就任の話を断ればよかったはず。そうでしょう、坊や。
とても不快です。私は失礼させていただきます。
聞きなさい。医学は常にその時代の倫理や価値観との戦いから勝ち取られるの。かつて高野先生がひなみ沢症候群の存在を予見した時、その時代の権威たちは自分たちの無知を棚に上げ、その先見性を嘲笑った。でも病に倒れる直前まで研究を捨てなかったわ。必ず自分がいつか評価される日が来ると信じて、そしてその日が自分の死後であったとしても必ず来ると信じて、それは強い信念と揺らぎのない鉄の意志があるから成し遂げられること。そうでなければ時代の無理解に高野先生は屈していたはず。研究はね、意志の力で成し遂げるのよ。絶対的に強固な意志だけが結果を紡ぎ出す。でもあなたにはそれがない。あなたは自分の実績を誇るべきか恥じるべきかすら自分で決めかねている臆病者よ。そんな中途半端な覚悟でよくこのような研究所の所長を引き受けられたものね。血塗られた両手をさらに血に浸すことでしか明かせぬ研究だと最初から分かっていたはずなのに。
否定はしません。私は中途半端かもしれない。
ならば所長を辞任なさっては。守秘義務は残るでしょうけど、あなたはこれ以上罪の意識に苛まれなくて済むでしょう。私にとってあなたはパートナーである以前にクライアントが要求した人事上の駒でしかない。こうして研究機関が成立した今、あなたの存在はもう重要ではないの。しかもその上、研究に対する覚悟が足りず、研究のパートナーとしても役立たずなら、あなたは無能のような死を。私は一人でも研究をやめない。どんな罪も後悔も
恐れない。
Well, good for you.
強固な意志だけが未来を紡ぐ。かつて高野先生が高潔な精神で成し遂げたように、私
立派な決意だと思います。ですが私もあなたに及ばないにしてもわずかの決意があってここへ来ています。そしてあなたの言う通り私の手はすでに血にまみれています。そしてひなみ沢に来てさらに血に浸しました。だからその責任を全うするまでは私は逃げることはできません。相変わらず私は罪を清算できず苛まれ続けるでしょう。でも逃げない。必ずひなみ沢症候群の研究を決着させます。それだけがこの研究に命を捧げてくださった方、そしてこれから捧げることになるかもしれない方への最後の誠意だと思っています。
Irie wore a determined look on his face. He appeared different from even a moment before, when he was baffled by Takano having brought up those painful memories. For a short while, Irie's eyes displayed his strong will, and then he turned around.
おそらくリカさんの検査は承諾が取れるでしょう。準備をお願いします。
ええ、心得ましたわ、所長。
They got their consent the following week. So apparently she's made her rather contemptuous view of the doc well known to him long before the GHD could even start taking place. Really shines a bit of a light on new light here on the interactions I've seen with them to get them together before. So, we got that out of the way now. Let's look for that one fragment that talks about the spinal fluid thing. Yes, here we are. Routine inspection. The lights came on in the meeting room as the slideshow ended, and all the auditors began to applaud, praising the Erie institution's dramatic accomplishments.
素晴らしい。実に素晴らしい。本音を言わせてもらえば、私はこのひなみ沢症候群の研究はあまり期待していませんでした。
仮に進むとしても10年単位で3歩進んで2歩下がるような研究になると思っていました。いやいや、それが短期間の間にこれだけの成果を上げられるとは。入江所長の努力と指導の賜物です。
そんなことはありません。私を支えてくださる優秀なスタッフとそちらの高野さんのおかげです。
ご謙遜を。
You know, I'm just now remembering, but I never had a chance to actually look at their OG sprites during actual cutscenes, so I believe it's the P key I need to mess with. Well, that's Manga Gamer. And it even changes the backgrounds this time to the originals. Nice. Okay. That's it for those two, at least.
やはり脳に関しては入江所長は天才ですわ。何しろ脳に関しては誰も及ばない実績をお持ちなのですから。
そうですな。あなたと同じ年の医者で、あなたほど大勢の脳みそをご覧になってきた方はおりますまい。
おめでとうございます、入江にさ。
Okay, your turn. His eyes look to be a deeper shade of red than brown.
私もこれで東京に胸を張って報告に帰れます。
富武さんに良いお土産が持たせられて光栄です。あとニサというのはご勘弁を。どうしても馴染めませんので。というかリサさんって聞こえるんですよね。
まるで女性の名前みたいに聞こえますね。
でも二郎さんも影の立役者ですわね。なかなか成果の出せない私たちの予算を二郎さんが懸命に努力して維持してくださったおかげですわ。
いやでも今回の成果は劇的です。ひなみ沢症候群の病原体を特定し、今後の研究計画に具体的道筋をつけることができました。以後の進捗監査がとても楽しみになります。
I'm sure the Tokyo office will quit bothering us about cutting your budget with these sorts of results.
何しろ皆さんにお出ししている缶コーヒーの予算まで削られそうになったんですものね。
富武君、東京にしっかり報告して祝杯が挙げられるくらいの予算はつけるよう愚信してあげなさい。
無知ばっかりではいかんね。飴もないとね。
その飴は予算で還元していただけると一番嬉しいのですが。
And with that congenial atmosphere, our routine audit was over. Irie was surrounded and being questioned by National Institute of Infectious Diseases workers who had joined the auditors.
高野さん、おめでとう。みんなの前では言えないけれど、今日の成果は全て高野さんの積み重ねによるものだよ。
ありがとう、二郎さん。
Jiro-san and I are the only ones here who know how that strings were pulled in order to create the Irie Institute. So only Jiro-san can understand what I had to go through.
でもこれでようやく研究の舞台に立てたというところね。私の挑むべき相手がようやく同じ土俵に上がってくれただけ。正念場はこれからよ。そしてここからが最も楽しいところになりそうだけど。
それでね、今回の件で中川本部長の方からぜひ東京で報告会をしてほしいと、連合アルファベットの理事会もぜひ君と会合を設けたいって言ってたよ。みんな君に直接話を聞いてみたいようだね。
あらあら、二郎さんを経由した報告じゃ物足りないのかしら。
いやそういう意味じゃないとは思うけどな。きっと噂の美人研究員を直接見てみたいんじゃないかななんて。
あら嫌だ、二郎さんったら。
失礼します。高野さんさ、東京からお電話です。
お待たせしました。高野です。
おお、元気にやってるかの。
小泉先生、わざわざお電話をいただけるなんてとても恐縮でございます。
いやな、みおちゃんの研究が大金星を挙げたという話が来てな、お祝いを言おうと思って電話したんだ。
ありがとうございます。はい、おかげさまで研究の第一段階であり最大の目標でもあったひなみ沢症候群の病原体特定に成功しました。
そうかそうか、ついにやったな、みおちゃん。天国で高野くんをきっと大喜びしているだろうの。
まだまだですわ。祖父はひなみ沢症候群の病原体特定などという段階を超えて研究していました。人の思想や意志が実は人以外の寄生的存在によって支配されていた可能性、それを暴いて初めて祖父の研究は偉業と称えられるのです。世界中の思想や宗教が全て寄生虫で説明できたなら世界はひっくり返るくらいの大騒ぎになるでしょうね。
それは愉快だの。偉そうに振る舞っとる宗教家連中が単なる寄生虫の親玉に過ぎんと立証されたら、それは本当に愉快だろうの。 ぜひそんな愉快なのを見せてくれ。ミオちゃんがそれを見せてくれるまで、私は天国のお迎えを断り続けてるからな。
Well, unfortunately for you, sir, going by another fragment I saw on the list of fragments, you're not going to get to live to see that happen.
縁起でもありませんわ。でも楽しみにしていてくださいね。きっと世界中があっと驚く発表をしてみせますから。
Oh, yes, you will.
その時に初めて世界中が祖父の偉業を知り、祖父が残した資料を奪い合って読み合うことになるでしょう。そこまで至って私はようやく祖父への恩返しを終えるのです。
高野くんが羨ましいの。私はな、金なんかこんなにいらんかった。この半分は捨ててもいい。あんたみたいな自分の志を継いでくれる孫が一人いてくれたらと思うよ。
ありがとうございます。身に余るお言葉です。
あとな、小泉のおじいちゃんからのプレゼントだ。みおちゃん宛てにな、祝杯用のワインを一本送らせた。
Okay, a bottle of wine. I should probably also have enough stuff here to look at that other fragment too.
みおちゃんの家の住所がわからんかったから診療所宛てにしてある。取り寄せに手間がかかってるらしいからちょっと時間がかかるかもしれんが、届いたらみおちゃんの研究を手伝ってくれた人たちを集めてそれを振る舞ってあげなさい。
祝杯用にワインなんて。はてさて、小泉先生からどんな高級ワインが届くやら。
そんな高級酒と違う。みおちゃんも覚えとらんかね。高野くんがいつも一本のワインを大切にしておったの。
I remember. That's right. My grandfather kept a certain bottle of wine. I don't know if he bought it himself or if someone gave it to him, but he treasured it, and he always said he'd opened it when his research finally gained recognition. I was a child then, so I don't even remember what brand it was. Mr. Koizumi would know. He went through all the trouble to find the same bottle of wine for this special occasion. For the first time in a while, Takano felt the same sunny warmth she experienced during her time with her grandfather.
ありがとうございます。小泉のおじいちゃん。
やっぱりみおちゃんにはそう呼ばれた方がしっくりくるの。どうもみおちゃんに先生と言われても自分のことだと思えなくてな。
I can't help but smile along with him, because I think Tomitaki and Irie were just having a similar exchange.
そう呼ばれる方がお好きでしたら、人前以外ではそう呼んでも結構ですわよ。
できれば人前でもそう呼んでもらえると喜ぶんだがの。
I don't know exactly how old he is, but if he can laugh so energetically, he'll live for many more years to come. I guess the saying about living a long life is true after all.
私も高野くんもみおちゃんのような子が本当の家族だったらと思うよ。本当にな。
My grandfather had his own family, of course. But because he was so into his research, he became estranged from his wife. They were legally married, but they lived separately. So it looks like my guess about research getting in the way of a happy family was right. I never met his family when I was a child. I only met them after my grandfather committed suicide. He committed suicide? During his latter years, my grandfather went into psychological despair and began to look at his life with cynicism. His condition became worse over time, and he was shocked at his own dementia. He was afraid of living while his consciousness degraded. So, he jumped off the rooftop of the hospital. Only my name was in his suicide note. None of his family members' names were in it. That's when all his relatives showed up and took everything my grandfather left behind. They were afraid I was going to get his estate. They had lawyers and all that, so I backed down. I asked for everything in his study in return. Those idiots don't understand the value of my grandfather's research. They were actually happy to strike a deal out of court, and they could also get rid of the piles of paper and jars of human organs in them. They never even showed up once when he was alive. Yet, like hyenas, they appeared after his death. I'd never let them put their hands all over my grandfather's research. Fortunately, I was able to protect my grandfather's soul from their tainted hands.
それでは長くなると悪いから、これ困ったことがあったらいつでもおじいちゃんに頼りなさい。孫娘のためにいくらでも一肌脱ぐからの。
ありがとう、小泉のおじいちゃん。ミオはもっともっと頑張りますね。
I'm really feeling bad for Dr. Takano. What a miserable way to go. Okay, I think I got all I need for this, so let's try it. You serious? I got the bottle of wine. We got Tomataki's promise, and we already saw a draft of the emergency manual in an earlier fragment. What more do I need? We didn't actually see his death, so that can't work. I don't get it. There must be something I can click here. But I don't want to just click at random. Well, she was taken to the hospital after her parents' death, so would this work? Okay, there we go. Satoshi-kun is a good brother who takes care of his sister. He went to visit Satoko-chan straight after school and kept encouraging her to get better every day. Without even hearing Satoshi-kun's stories, it's obvious to me that Satoko-chan never had a good relationship with her step-parents. She especially didn't get along with her stepfather. Satoko-chan even called the child abuse hotline once. Not only that, her parents ended up dying in an accident, so she just wasn't able to withstand all that damage. Satoko-chan is still very young, so everything must have been horrible for her to go through. Fortunately, she has a wonderful brother. Emotional wounds are hard to heal, but nothing heals those wounds better than love from family members. I'm sure that one day, Satoko-chan will be able to smile again. She's still in shock, but when she talks to Satoshi-kun, she smiles a little bit. Uishi from the police department keeps requesting to see her, but I think I need to protect her for just a little longer. While he's passionate about his job, I wish he'd be a touch more sensitive. If he reminds her of her parents' accident, her emotional wounds will start to open again. That's the one point I worry about with Satoko-chan. I heard someone knocking on the door. It was Takano-san. It doesn't look right wearing a nurse's uniform like that. She's a licensed doctor, so she should wear a white coat and act like one. Maybe this is fun for her, but I think she might be insulting the real nurses. I didn't say anything, though.
入江先生、ちょっとよろしいですか？
ああ、はい。それではサトシ君、私は失礼します。
Well, if nothing else, her nurse uniform definitely served as good camouflage for her real role in this place.
あ、はい。サトシ君、こんにちは。サトコちゃんと遊んであげててね。ずっと一人でいるからきっと寂しいと思うの。ね？
そんなことございませんわよ。
Hello, Satoko.
ではサトシ君、よろしくお願いします。
I got up and let Satoshi-kun take over.
ところで何かありましたか？
ここではなんですので、所長室で。
Takano-san smiled meaningfully. Usually, smiles bring happy feelings. But when it comes to Takano-san, that's rarely the case.
それは
Go
本当
figure.
ですか？
ええ。簡易検査の結果、レベル3以上と思われる高い発症レベルの可能性が指摘されました。彼女をさらに入院させ、より精度の高い検査を行う必要があります。結果待ちですが、私の見たところ、レベル4の可能性すらあり得るかと。
Takano-san's eyes sparkled in a weird way. There's a reason for that. For us, finding patients in the terminal stage is a valuable boon to our research. In fact, as a result of dissecting the murder suspect from last year, we've made great progress in our research. In other words, we finally managed to isolate the pathogen. We also discovered that when the host dies, the pathogen melts away within a few hours. Once that happens, it's undetectable. It definitely does explain how it couldn't be found in an autopsy. That's why we never found the pathogen when we performed autopsies. Our research made a lot of progress after that. What we found in this past year has easily surpassed what the late Dr. Takano found in decades. We're now studying the nature, the effect, and the symptoms of the pathogen, as well as treatments and vaccines. In other words, a living specimen who's at the terminal stage is a necessity for our research. However, we rarely find a patient who's gone that far, who's reached level 5. Hinamizawa syndrome once created a huge number of level 5 patients, but today it doesn't have such potency. Because of that, we have to secure level 5 patients, or patients who are close to reaching level 5, as quickly as possible. Satoko-chan possibly qualifies to be that next sacrifice. To keep this strange disease a secret, we can't let patients who may be at level 5 go. We have to run more tests first, then we'll figure out what to do next. In any case, Satoko-chan seems so calm. Her behavior is nothing like the man from last year. Initial tests are in error sometimes. We'll have to wait for the results of more detailed tests to determine how serious her condition is.
わかりました。
経過観察のため、入院スタッフの皆さんへの手配をお願いいたします。
That sounds like a formal answer, but if the results come back positive, that will be the green light for her dissection. I don't know Satoko-chan that well, but I've known her brother, Satoshi-kun, through the baseball team for a long time. How could I dissect the apple of Satoshi-kun's eyes? I could feel scary images flashing in my head for a long time.
ご安心を。万事すでに手配させておりますわ。
She smiled as if telling me that the dissection is already being prepared for, too. Is it just her who's smiling? Am I smiling like her, too? When I dissected that man last year, I did feel guilt beforehand. But once I started, it was like I was in paradise. All the pieces of the puzzle that were left by the late Dr. Takano fell into place, and at the same time, they didn't. How exciting it was. Knowing that we were the first ones to take the first steps to solve a mystery, that is. I don't even know how to explain this feeling to those who have never experienced it. There's no way to describe it with words. The only thing I can say is that even a year later, I still remember it vividly. So if the results show that Satoshi-kun's beloved sister is to be dissected, can I control myself? Can I stay calm? But that means I'm a failure of a human being. I know very well the Hojo family was treated poorly by the villagers, and I know what Satoko-chan had to go through. Also, I know Satoshi-kun loves his sister, who is his one and only blood relative. How can I dissect Satoko-chan using my research as an excuse? I didn't feel much guilt for the man from last year, but I feel unbearable guilt towards Satoko-chan. That means what I did last year was very sinful. I don't care if a stranger dies, but I don't want Satoko-chan to die. It's not right. All lives are equally precious. I tried to convince myself that he was a violent murderer, but maybe he only became that way because he was at the terminal stage. I don't know anything about him before he became deranged. Maybe he was a model citizen who was worthy of respect. Unfortunately, he became ill and ended up doing what he did. Maybe he was a victim himself, just like my father. I know more about Hinazawa syndrome than anybody. This disease makes people act in bizarre ways, without those people realizing it. So when the people at the terminal stage do such strange and violent things, one should be sympathetic. I already knew that back when I decided to go down this path. I should have remembered it sooner, but I only did just now. I finally realized what sinful research I'm working on. Satoko Hojo's detailed test results came back. The results say, Level 5. What the fuck? She's at the terminal stage of the she's at the terminal stage of the terminal stage. It's actually a surprising result. Yeah, because if she's actually at that stage, why is she not acting like she did in school when she thought the principal was Teppei? In last year's case, the patient was extremely deranged. According to Takano-san's records, he complained about itching from the lymph nodes all over his body and wanted to claw at his throat, just as the late Dr. Takano mentioned. But Satoko-chan isn't displaying such symptoms. Even in the late Takano's data, throat clawing is said to be a characteristic symptom of terminal stage patients. However, not all patients experience that symptom. Besides, emotional expression is very different in each person. Even if it's the same emotion, one patient may express it rather violently, and another may express it calmly. There's no way of knowing just by looking at a person. But Satoko-chan's detailed test results say that she's at the terminal stage of the terminal stage, level 5. In other words, she may be feeling what the man from last year was feeling. It's just that she isn't expressing that feeling the same way the man was. Hinamizawa syndrome affects the frontal lobes of the brain. It stimulates the most primitive of emotions, doubt, very strongly. As a result, terminal patients are trapped in delusions and paranoia and end up committing horrible crimes. Satoko-chan seems to show improvement when she's exchanging friendly words with Satoshi-kun. But there's a paranoia stirring inside of her that may put her in a deranged state at any moment. I can't let her leave the clinic like this. However, if things go according to the manual, I'll have to make a decision on her dissection. My decision will only be a formality. I can't actually refuse. Takano-sen appears to be already working on a dissection schedule. That plan will then come to me. Would I feel the same way while dissecting Satoko-chan? Would I be able to experience that trance once again? No. The question is, can I fight the temptation? As I pretend to question myself, I'm letting Takano-sen prepare things on her own. By doing so, am I passively agreeing to Satoko-chan's dissection? If possible, I want to save Satoko-chan. I don't want her to be a sacrifice for this research. I don't want to dissect her. Then, what about the man from last year? Do I only care about the lives of the people I know? If I don't dissect her, do I let her live and leave the clinic? Do I simply wait for her to become deranged and commit a horrible crime? And then she'll show up here, just like the man from last year, and I'll end up dissecting her anyway. The man from last year was dissected alive, and kept that way for several months. Oh, way to go, fuck. With his skull left open, he wasn't allowed to die for several months. He was kept alive, just for our cruel experiments. I don't want to do that to her. I don't know what to do. Even debating and agonizing over it is leaning toward the consent to her dissection by elimination. I do think I understand understand his point of view, but if I was in his shoes, I don't think I could go through with it. It'd be too much for me. But, I mean, hey, we already saw for some of these fragments that, yeah, right here. The discontinuation of Satoko Hojo's dissection plan is required, so we already know based on this and from the events of previous chapters that this dissection never occurred. I'm going to assume that Irie's decision must relate to his decision on what to do with Satoko, so I should probably wait on this one. Let me see. Not that. Not that either. Something's jumping out at me. Again. This again? Fuck it. I might as well just try a random one at this point and see what happens. Oh, hey. So I can connect these broken ones after all. Plans for Satoko-chan's dissection are moving right along. I don't want Satoshi-kun to be sad. I feel pity for Satoko-chan in her harsh circumstances. I'm still struggling with how much I have to sacrifice for the sake of research.
入江。
え？ああ、すみません。うっかりどうなさいましたか、リカさん。
僕の友達がずっと長く入院していますが、その子はひなみ沢症候群ではないのですか？
それを誰に聞きましたか？
僕がそう思っただけです。どうなのですか？さとこはひなみ沢症候群ではないのですか？
Rika-chan is on our side. There's nothing I have to hide from her. Actually, I probably shouldn't keep anything from her.
はい。両親との不仲と、その両親の突然の死。彼女の心には、それは一度に受け入れるには、あまりに大きすぎる出来事でした。それが引き金になったのかもしれません。
検査の結果は？
レベル5です。上辺は非常に安定して見えますが、情緒は非常に不安定です。先日からサトシ君の見舞いも謝絶にしました。
サトシに聞きましたです。サトコの心の傷がなかなか癒えないと気にしていましたです。入江、サトコはどうなるのですか？
Satoko-chan is Rika-chan's best friend. How can I plan her that we're planning to dissect Satoko-chan? However, even if I don't say anything, she already knows that Satoko-chan's situation is extremely poor.
入江は僕の体を調べてたくさんのことが分かったのではないですか？
ええ、それはもちろんです。症状を抑える効果が期待される試薬も現在いろいろと試しているところです。
それをサトコに与えることはできませんのですか？
一度は考えました。しかしかなり危険です。体力や精神力に余裕がある検体に試し、少しずつデータを集めていこうという段階です。サトコちゃんのようなもう後がない人間に試せるような代物ではありません。
では入江、その薬を試さないならサトコはどうなってしまうのですか？
She spoke as if aware of our plans for Satoko-chan. No, she must actually know. I told her about most of my research. She's more mature than she looks, so it'd be easier for her to figure out.
僕はサトコが 1% でも助かる可能性があるならそれにかけるべきだと思いますです。
非常に危険な賭けです。最悪の場合、彼女は即座に末期発症し錯乱するか、さもなければ人としての心を失い、一生を焦点の合わない目で壁を見て過ごす体になってしまうかもしれない。どちらもそれはあまりに過酷な運命です。
全身麻酔で痛みを感じさせずに眠ったままを殺す方がずっといいというの？ 入江、よく高野が言う通り、医学に 100% はない。でもこのまま放置すれば聡子を待ち受ける運命は 100% の絶対の死しかない。ならばどちらにかけるかは明白なはず。
そうですね、その通りです。
But I know too well. C103, the medicine that's being tested, may not even be something that can be used. It may not even have a 1% chance of success. Worse, I can't even imagine what kind of tragic end she'd meet if her body rejects the medicine. Way I see it, if she's going to end up dying anyway, she literally has nothing to lose by that point. She's going to experience the terminal symptoms before either dying or being effectively put into a coma. So you know what? Take the gamble. That's why. I'm tempted to believe it would be far more merciful to feed her favorite food, let her gently fall asleep, and after that, dissect her while she dreams. I don't want to admit it, but Takano-sen is right. I'm being indecisive and showing a lack of resolve. How effective could a medicine made by someone like that really be? So because it was medicine that I created myself, I couldn't even believe there might be a 0.1% chance of success.
僕は入江の作った薬なら信用できると思いますです。
She spoke as if she read my mind. Surprised, I raised my head to look up at her, and found her giving me a reassuring look I never would have imagined someone her age capable of.
入江は人の命を左右するとても辛い仕事に耐えている。本来人の生き死になど人間がどうにかしようというのがおこがましいこと。その重圧は背負った者にしかわからない。
Her voice hasn't changed, but I feel like Rika-chan is admonishing me. Almost as if she knows what it's like to be responsible for human lives.
その重さは罪の意識と後悔の重さを加えて決められる。だから入江はまだまだ危険な薬を聡子に試せない。そうでしょう。
Takano-san said the same thing when she criticized me earlier. I'm being criticized again.
でもだからあなたになら聡子を託せると思う。
え？
人の命はとても重い。その重みに耐えかねるのはあなたが人の命を大切にしたい心があるからこそよ。そんな心がなくしてどうして人を病気から救えるというの？高野みたいに人をモルモットとしか思ってないやつの治療薬なんか試せると思う？
I shouldn't have laughed, but I couldn't help it. I felt like I should laugh.
高野とあなたがそれぞれに薬を差し出したなら私は入江の薬の方が治るように思う。だって薬は人の心から生み出されるんだもの。自分の身から滴り落ちる雫で人を。
おっしゃる通りです。医者が薬のことで諭されるとは。
私は自分の体を他でもない聡子のために差し出した。私の体から注射針で抜き出したものは全て私から聡子に捧げる薬の雫。その雫から命の本当の重さを知り、日々後悔と自責を忘れないあなたが何かを抽出してくれたなら、それが聡子に効かないわけがない。
Do shrine maidens take confessions? If they do, she's doing a great job of being a shrine maiden at this age.
これは 賭けになります。聡子ちゃんが果たして受け入れてくれるかどうか。
聡子に伝える必要はありません。聡子にとってひなみ沢症候群を知ることは心の深い傷をもう一度えぐることにしかならないのだから。
What does she mean by those words? When I realized it later, I was surprised by how thoughtful and perceptive she was.
解剖計画を中止させましょう。北条聡子に対する C103 投与実験に変更します。せめて 1% でもうまくいく確率が上がるように努力します。
大丈夫ですよ。絶対にうまくいきますです。
そんな楽観してはいけません。
大丈夫なのです。もう決まってることなのですから。これはフルデ神社の巫女様の心強いお告げです。ファイトオンなのですよ。
Okay, we got his decision. So I think I have an idea of what fragment we could try next. We could probably also try this one too. Okay, so this thing now looks clear, so I guess I don't have to worry about that anymore. Sensei. Yeah, just wanted to double check a few things. So let's try H170. C103's implementation on Satoko is going well so far. It wouldn't make any difference to me if the experiment failed. However, Irie's extraordinary focus and attention to the experiment has avoided Satoko Hojo hallucinating or turning into a vegetable during the experiment. And surprisingly, we see prospects of her returning to normal life despite reaching level 5. C103 still has many issues, but this experiment proved that even a person who has reached level 5 can be cured. I didn't believe in it at first, but I guess I have to acknowledge Irie's hard work. Only Irie could have done this. He was tormented by naive humanism and didn't want to make mistakes, and that is why he felt obligated to cure Satoko Hojo. Don't underestimate naive humanism, I guess. The reason why I dislike Irie isn't because of his achievements or abilities, but because of that weakness. But this time, I had to praise him for it. If this weakness of his ultimately ended up giving him the strength, to try out this experiment, and it ended up producing positive results in the end, can you really call it a weakness anymore by that point?
入江所長のレポートを拝見しましたわ。脱帽と言わざるを得ません。
いえ、私の研究者としての職務を果たしたに過ぎません。その結果、医者としての職務も果たせたなら、私にとってはそれに勝ることはありません。
Wait a fucking minute. If this drug could cure even a level 5 patient, someone who's at the terminal of the terminal stage, why didn't they just give this drug to the entire fucking village in the event that Rika ends up dying, and seeing if it could end up curing them, or any time before that even? Yeah, she just said that this drug still needs work, but this took place several years before the events of the present time in the previous chapters. So surely that this drug had to have gone through some more refinements by then, right? And if so, why wasn't it used? Well, then again, I think I just thought of an answer to my own question. Because Killjoy wouldn't allow it. Ain't that right, Killjoy?
今やさとこちゃんは私たちにとって最も重要な検体になったと言っても過言ではないでしょう。何しろレベル5に至りながら生還した初めての人間なのですから。
その通りです。彼女を社会生活に復帰させ、経過を見ながら長期観察に切り替えていきます。彼女には毎週日曜日にこちらに来てもらって、検査を受けてもらえるよう話をするつもりです。
I also just thought of something. She still experienced symptoms even after given this drug here, so it's not like it got rid of the syndrome in her body completely. So if you kill the Queen Carrier and Rika, even if this drug could reduce the symptoms from level 5 patients, it still wouldn't be a cure. Furthermore, would this drug even be enough, even in the contingency where the Queen Carrier dies? Would the symptoms end up manifesting such as strength, or even C103, his strength would be utterly meaningless in the end? Yeah, the more I think about it, I think the more I realize how ultimately ineffective this drug still is. Based on our current understanding and knowledge anyway.
しかし C103 を日に3回も注射する義務と毎週日曜日に検査に訪れる義務を彼女にどう説明されるおつもりで？彼女には何の病気の自覚もないのに。
そこは今うまく納得してもらえる話を考えています。今考えているのは私の研究論文に協力してもらうというものです。
I got another idea. And it involves this sound effect. Cha-ching.
栄養剤の注射を毎日してもらい、毎週日曜日にその効果を検査する。その代わりに研究協力費としていくらかを支払うという感じです。
I guess Irie is determined to cure Satoko Hojo no matter what. He seems determined to keep her off the dissection table. He and I are in different positions, but I don't have any complaints about his naive ideals so long as they translate directly into passion for our research. If his plans can be put into effect and produce a different result than the dissection would, then they'll still be useful to the overall understanding of Hinamizawa syndrome. I have nothing against Satoko Hojo. It's only that I see her as a research specimen. If she can be useful in that capacity without being dissected, that's perfectly fine with me.
日に3回もの注射となれば、これは本人だけでなく、保護者の方の同意も不可欠です。
Of course. Tepe and the aunt.
確か、ご両親が亡くなってからは、おじ夫婦に親権が移っていましたね。そちらに一度相談に伺おうと思います。
Well, bring yourself some earplugs for all the shouting they'll direct your way.
メイへの怪しげな研究協力を承諾してもらえればいいのですが。
Well, if nothing else, I'm sure they'll agree here just for the financial support, if nothing else.
大丈夫ですわよ。そのための研究協力費ですもの。月に10万か20万も振り込んでやれば大喜びしますわ。
This takes place in the early 1980s, so I'm gonna need to do a little math here on my own time here and convert this into US dollar, figure out how much this stuff would actually be worth in this time period, because I also got inflation I gotta take into consideration as well.
それだけの予算はありますか？
もちろん。二郎さんを納得させる資料を作りさえすれば。
わかりました。それは私が作ります。あと、聡子ちゃんに振動をかけないよう指導しておく必要もあります。レベル5をぶり返すことになったら大変ですからね。噂では、おじ夫婦はとても現金な方だとか。
Mercenary, huh? I guess it's certainly one way to describe them.
金銭で丸め込むのは可能かもしれません。それらの指導も私の方できっちり行うつもりです。
I heard Satoko-chan isn't getting along with her aunt and uncle. I never thought that'd affect us in any way. But now, Irie has to deal with them. Maybe he's developed some kind of sense of responsibility or duty as her guardian. I don't really care. The more responsible he feels, the more progress our research makes. That'll be a plus for me.
それはそうと。H170 番台についてのレポート。
ええ。入江所長の成果に比べれば足元にも及びませんが、一応の研究成果を出せましたわ。
本当に皮肉ですね。彼女を錯乱から救う治療薬を作っていた研究所で、その傍らでは彼女を直ちに錯乱させる危険な薬が作られていたのですから。
Irie wasn't involved in the H170 research. That was my work. In fact, even if I asked him, he wouldn't have agreed to be involved. This dangerous reagent was developed during the process of uncovering the mechanisms behind how the pathogens controlling Satoko Hojo's brain could induce derangement or paranoia in their host. To put it bluntly, injecting H170 into a patient with Hinamizawa syndrome forced them to express terminal symptoms. It threw the brain into a simulated state of agitation, intentionally forcing the pathogen to grow unstable. If we continue researching this, it will be possible to drive anyone with Hinamizawa syndrome violently insane at any time. Studying the mechanism behind that will help solve the syndrome's mysteries. So this study in H170 will be extremely important to future research. Ironic. Satoko's symptoms ended up being used as a means to create a rather lethal weapon by this bitch. It's like the universe is just trying to find all kinds of different ways that it can just use and abuse Satoko. Also, this medicine has military applications, as the client requested. At this point, there's absolutely no use for it. But once our research progresses a bit further, this H170 could be spread at the right moment to cause a certain type of reaction. Compared to a killer virus, it seems like a useless pathogen. But there's no way to detect it in a dead body, and it makes it look as though the person just went insane spontaneously, so it must have some useful applications. The Marco Polo Bridge incident threatened to end research on Hinamizawa syndrome before. A historically important incident like that couldn't have been created by a killer virus. But it's possible with Hinamizawa syndrome. The elders of the Alphabet Project, the sponsor for our research, can think whatever they want about that. I don't care how they use what I have learned. My purpose is to solve the mysteries of Hinamizawa syndrome and to make people realize how important this research is. Also, to make people acknowledge my grandfather's accomplishments and achievements. Any military applications were just byproducts of the process that I didn't care about.
クライアントにとっては高野さんの成果の方が喜ばれるでしょう。来期の予算取りが楽になるかもしれませんね。
情熱だけでは研究は続けられませんものね。先立つものがなければ。
これだけの潤沢な資金を提供してくださるスポンサーさんには頭が上がりません。これだけのお金が公費から出ているのですから。
日本という国は私たちが想像しているよりずっと豊かなのかもしれませんね。公費は公費でも表に出せない黒い公費でしょうけれどね。
Excuse me. Erie has no idea what I had to go through to get that money. Anyway, our research is going extremely well. We don't know what we'll find out about Hinamizawa syndrome, but I'm sure every mystery will eventually be solved. I can hardly wait. What the syndrome indicates is that humans are simply empty containers, and what we believe to be our will is simply the actions of parasites that live in our brains. If that mystery was solved, it would have a greater impact than anything else in history. That is a truth which nobody wants to believe. This is an achievement my grandfather predicted back during his time. I know now. I know the reason why my grandfather was so fascinated by his work. Well, really though, I mean, of course most people would reject it, wouldn't want to believe it in this kind of research, because if it's true, then that effectively proves that the concept of free will in humans is effectively a joke. And, well, the vast majority of people, myself included, don't want to believe in that sort of thing. Because, because I care about, speaking for myself, I care about the idea of being able to maintain my own agency as a human being. If something like this was actually real, and that every single thought, every single emotion, every single desire I've ever had and to continue to have even to this day, is all the result of some outside being, like in this case a parasite, then that would just shake me to my core. Because, as you so eloquently put it, Takano, I would effectively just be an empty vessel to be used and controlled by parasites. Furthermore, I'm no expert in human biology by any stretch of the imagination, nor psychology or anything like that. But I think I generally know enough to know that human beings are far more complex than what this research would imply. At least I would think so, given how complex our brains and neurological structures are and everything, and how they've evolved over time. I personally refuse to entertain the idea that all of that is just basically the equivalent of a player having their hands on a keyboard or mouse or game controller, and I am the game controller or mouse and keyboard, and the parasite is the player, for lack of a better analogy. Anyway, I'm nowhere near equipped enough here to have long, complex discussion about such things, so I think I should just stick to something that's more within my field of, well, comprehension and understanding and whatnot, and that is the mystery that's right in front of me. said H107 or something, right? Okay, so I'm going to assume that this must be a stronger version of the experimental medicine that was given to Satoko, so probably can't use that one yet. Okay, let's try this. Suffering of a Big Brother. A group of boys are playing baseball under the powerful sun. The sound of cicadas making the heat stand out even more. The sound of the cicadas makes the heat stand out even more, but to those boys, it's just another kind of cheering from the crowds. Of course, they go through training exercises to build stamina. But the boys don't actually like such routine activities. What they look forward to is the most is the free game after practice. The school in Hinamizawa is actually borrowed from the forestry service. The schoolyard is made of gravel, so it's not very appropriate for playing sports on. Compared to that, the grounds at the school in Okinomiya are properly maintained for athletic activities, so the kids grew even more energetic when they come here. Kids from Hinamizawa really don't care if the ground is made of gravel or not. The other instructor is watching the game, so I decided to go get some drinks for the team.
監督、どこへ行くんですか？
皆さんにジュースを買ってこようと思いまして、もしよかったらサトシ君も手伝ってくださるととても助かるのですが。
はい、お手伝いします。
Satoshi-kun decided to come along with me. Sometimes kids don't like what grown-ups choose, so I'm glad he agreed to help. Satoshi-kun and I got in the car and headed to the grocery store nearby.
監督、サトコの具合はどうなんですか？
ええ、経過は良好ですよ。本当にゆっくりとですが、サトコちゃんの心の傷も癒えてきています。もう少しだけ安静にしてあげた方がいいでしょう。
It's natural for Satoshi-kun to be worried. Satoko-chan has been in the hospital for over 2 weeks. Of course, he doesn't know his sister has Hinamizawa syndrome. Not only that, she's almost at level 5. She could become deranged at any moment. He believes she's depressed because of the shock of her parents' accident. He came to the clinic every day to cheer his sister up. But Satoko-chan has become emotionally unstable and was showing some dangerous symptoms, so we called off the visits. In fact, Satoko-chan is not doing so well. Level 5, the stage Satoko-chan is at, is a very abnormal one. The man from last year, who was at the same stage, was acting so abnormal that even a drug addict in his final stages would have turned and ran. There's no guarantee Satoko-chan won't fall into the same condition. When we performed the autopsy on that man last year, we learned the true identity of the syndrome and gained a great understanding of its mechanisms. We even discovered some important facts that may lead to the development of a cure. However, we have yet to find a method of actually curing the disease. So if Satoko-chan becomes unrecoverable, we may have to dissect her, just like we did the man from last year. How can I tell Satoshi-kun about his sister's situation? All I can do is make vague comments and lie to him that she's recovering. What if she becomes much worse? That would make me an unforgivable liar. The tiny bit of conscience that remains in me hurts.
もし監督の診療所のご迷惑でなければ、もうしばらく入院させてもらった方がいいかもしれません。
それはどういう意味ですか？
I thought he wanted her to come home as soon as possible, so I'm a little surprised.
いえ、実はサトコはあまりおばさん一家とも馴染めていないんです。
サトコちゃんがご両親と あまり良い関係ではなかったと聞いていましたが、新しく預けられたおばさん夫婦ともなのですか？
聡子は大人にはあまり心を開かないので。
Satoshi-kun has told me about their family background. Their mother's constant remarriages wounded her children deeply. Satoshi-kun was able to overcome it, but Satoko-chan was too young to be able to do that. That left her traumatized, and she now has a tendency to distrust or dislike guardians who aren't related to her. Actually, nobody would like a guardian who isn't related to them. So it's not just Satoko-chan. But usually people try to deal with that, even if they don't like it. I guess Satoko-chan's not capable of that.
おじさんはあまり家に帰ってこないし、いても寝てるかテレビを見てるかなので、そんなに問題はないんですが。
Probably busy terrorizing a bunch of other poor saps in Okinomiya.
おばさんがものすごく聡子に絡むんです。
どうしてそんなに嫌われてしまったんでしょうね。
I can guess why. Satoko-chan's parents were dam proponents, and because of that, the villagers considered the aunt and uncle part of the Hojo family, and ostracized them as such. Moreover, they passed away suddenly in an accident and left 2 children behind, so I guess there would be more hate there than gratitude. If she had been obedient like Satoshi-kun, everything would have been fine. But Satoko-chan can't be that way. She shows that in her attitude and expressions, which leads to her and her aunt having a big fight.
僕もおばさんに聡子の事情を説明してはいるのですが、なかなか分かってもらえなくて。
その度に聡子ちゃんをかばってあげるサトシ君はお兄さんの鏡だと思いますよ。今や聡子ちゃんにとって唯一の肉親はサトシ君だけなのかもしれませんからね。
そうですね。そんな気がしてます。
Satoshi-kun said with a slight hint of a sigh. He doesn't say it, but it seems Satoshi-kun has grown tired of having to cover for Satoko-chan every time she and her aunt fight. He's a good person, as well as a good big brother. So I'm sure he'll do anything to cover for his sister. But that's a very exhausting thing to keep doing forever. Satoshi-kun was already doing that when their parents were alive. And eventually, his mental equilibrium couldn't handle the strain. He grew sick, and he visited my clinic. I thought his circumstances might have improved after their initial cause. His parents were gone. But it seems things were even worse than before.
わかりました。そんな状況で聡子ちゃんを退院させたら、また心の症状がぶり返してしまうかもしれませんね。入院費のことは気にしないでください。聡子ちゃんが本当の意味で回復するまで、私が責任を持ってお預かりします。
While trying to pretend I'm listening to his request, I feel a little disgusted at myself for making such selfish excuses. I'll make sure. Takano-san is working on her dissection plan as we speak.
お願いできると僕も少しだけ助かります。
はい？
いえ、聡子がもうしばらく入院しててくれたら、僕もその分気が楽だなって思っただけです。
それはどういう意味ですか？
聡子が帰ってきたら、どうせまたおばと喧嘩をするだろうと思います。そうしたらまた喧嘩や怒鳴り声ばかりの日になって、僕もそれに巻き込まれるのかなって思うと、聡子はずっと入院しててくれるのが一番僕にとって気楽なことなんじゃないかって、そう思ってしまう自分がいて嫌になります。
サトシ君。
Satoshi-kun is a great big brother, who always sticks up for his little sister. But that doesn't mean he doesn't feel burdened.
そんなことを考えてしまうなんて、僕はなんて悪い兄なんだろうって思います。
You're only human, Satoshi. Don't be so hard on yourself, man.
そうだと思えば思うほど、自分が嫌になって。
Satoshi-kun said, sniffling once. His expression was one of anguish, as if truly feeling his own sin. His desire to be a model big brother is putting himself under great pressure. I feel bad for Satoko-chan, but I also feel bad for Satoshi-kun in a different way. As someone who knows the both of them well, I feel I must be their ally, since they don't have anyone else who cares about them. It was like, but see, seeing this though, as pressing as it is proof of one thing to me. All the times that Satoko said to herself and, well, Shion when she was killing her, every time that Satoko expressed regret over possible hatred, contempt, regret, whatever that Satoshi may felt towards Satoko for having to look out for her as much as he did. Yeah, he did feel that way, but more than that, he loved Satoko more than anything, despite all that discomfort and pain that being a constant protector brought to him. It's both sad and heartwarming all at once. But then ultimately just loops right back to being sad for me again, because ultimately Satoko never learned and had a chance to learn and understand that. And now Satoshi, well, chances are he's likely dead here because of how bad his condition ended up getting after he killed his aunt. But now that I think about it, given Irie's feelings on the both of them, he would try to prevent Satoshi from being dissected, wouldn't he? But then, if that was the case, and he would have been able to just give a similar dose of medicine to Satoshi like Satoko, then why didn't that happen? Where did Satoshi ended up going? Oh, now I'm right back to where I started on the current theory again regarding Satoshi's fate. And here I was thinking I was about to make some more progress on that. See if I can do one more before I call it quits. Okay, so we got these, I think, but... Okay, let's just try this one, next in Shirawaka Park, because I think we'll need this fragment before I could try this one, because I require the truth about the Shirakawa Park accident, so if I just try this, I'll just end up cracking this fragment, so... Let's learn the truth about what happened here, shall we? Although, yeah, that's the park where the accident occurred. But given what I saw in a previous fragment, I think I'm pretty I think I'm pretty sure what happened to Satoko's parents in reality already. So I guess now's the time to find out I'm right on the money. Satoko-chan's dissection plan has been scrubbed, and we are getting ready to administer an almost totally untested medicine, C103. This experimental medicine suppresses the production of a certain type of hormone, and, in doing so, it will stop the transmission of the syndrome triggering Satoko-chan's condition. The mechanism of Hinamizawa syndrome is as follows. The pathogen takes over the frontal lobe of the patient's brain, and then induces increased responsiveness to paranoia. As a result, a patient voluntarily carries out excessively defensive behaviors to a problematic extent. If this induction can be cut off, then it'll be possible to save terminal patients from becoming deranged. But it only cuts off at an induction, so it's not really a cure. Ironically, the brain is an organ that learns. Once the brain has learned to be excessively paranoid due to the Hinamizawa syndrome, even after the pathogen is eliminated, the brain doesn't simply unlearn that paranoia. That definitely does explain Reina's attitudes towards Oyashiro-sama even after her incident when she was young. In short, even if the pathogen doesn't induce derangement, the patient will be directed to such emotions of their own volition. Thus, it's impossible to completely escape the nearly deranged level 5 state. The proverb, "A burnt child dreads the fire," is a good example of this. Even after the burn on your tongue heals, the fear of being burned by food again remains. When it ends up being a good thing, we call it learning a lesson, and we call it trauma when it doesn't. We predict Satoko-chan's treatment will take a significantly long time, requiring both medication, such as administering psychotropics, and mental care, like counseling. We have to slowly unravel her mind's solidified paranoia, while also suppressing the syndrome's induction of derangement. This is the treatment plan for terminal patients like Satoko-chan. One hell of a balancing act. However, as we are going to stimulate parts of her brain that affect her emotions while they are being stimulated by the pathogen at the same time, it's possible there could be unexpected side effects. Both her mental and physical strength hold the key to our success. We were going to begin the experiment once she regains her emotional stability and physical strength, but someone who threatens to disturb her emotional stability has been coming here every day. Ushi, the sly old detective from Okinomiya Police Department. "I'm gonna solve Daddy's murder, whatever it takes." He thinks everything, from the damn protests to the dismemberment murder of the construction manager, is an organized effort secretly conducted by the 3 families of the village. He even thinks the accident involving Satoko-chan's parents wasn't an accident. Well, in that sense, he's not really wrong, is he? That's why he keeps coming back so he can talk to Satoko-chan.
何度来られても、さとこちゃんへの面会を許可することはできません。彼女は両親を亡くしたショックで打ちのめされているんですよ。それを汲み取ることはできませんか？
いやいや、本当にちょっとだけお話が聞ければいいんです。そうお時間を取らせるつもりはないんですがね。令状が必要だってんなら申請しないことはありませんが、そう。私も北条さんの容体を気遣っているからこそ令状を取るなんて無粋を避けているんじゃありませんか。
令状を取ってまで一体何をさとこちゃんに聞こうとしているのか、私にはさっぱりわかりません。
実はですね、今回の転落、事故ではなく事件の可能性もありまして。
北条夫妻がダム戦争以来 村中から嫌われているという話は知っています。ですがわざわざ旅行先まで追いかけて突き落とすというのは少々突飛すぎはしませんか。
まあ事故でもいいんですがね。ならばどうしてもよくわからない嘘があるんです。どうして嘘が必要なのかって考えるとですね、こりゃ事故ってことはありえないんじゃないかなって思うんです。
嘘とはなん
いえね、北条聡子さんの言う事故当時は車で眠っていたっていう話、ちょいと話がおかしいんじゃないかなってそう思うんです。
Satoko-chan claimed she was asleep in the back seat when the accident took place, so she didn't get out of the car at the viewing platform. When she woke up, she didn't see her parents. Then she found out they had fallen off the cliff.
それのどこに嘘があるというんです。まさか聡子ちゃんが実は眠っていなくて両親と一緒に展望台へ行ったと、そういう意味ですか。
そうです。北条聡子さんは眠ってなんかいなかった。両親と一緒に車を降りて展望台へ行ったんです。
I'm suddenly hit by a terrible possibility. If what Ushi says is true, and Satoko-chan is saying she didn't go to the viewing platform even though she actually did, it's terrible to even imagine.
何を根拠にそうおっしゃっているのかわかりません。それになぜ嘘をつく必要が聡子ちゃんにあるんですか。
それなんですよ。なぜ北条聡子さんは嘘をつかなければならないのか、それの本当のところを教えていただけないと、こいつはただの転落事故ってことでは済ませられないんです。
どうして聡子ちゃんが嘘をついているとお思いなんです。
今回の事故は所轄が違いますので、白川署さんが関係者から事情聴取をしているんですがね、その調書を読んでみるとどうにも引っかかるところがある。
引っかかるところとは何ですか。
北条聡子さんの主張によるならば、彼女は両親に展望台へ行こうと誘われたが、眠たかったのでそれを断り車を降りなかったという。そして彼女はそのまま熟睡してしまい、相当の時間が経ってから目を覚ました。そしていつまでも戻ってこない両親に不安感を募らせ泣き出した。その声を聞いて巡回中の公園作業員が話しかけて事故が発覚したことになっています。この時ですね、公園作業員の証言では両親が崖下に転落したと彼女が先に言ったというんですよ。ところがこの時北条夫妻が止めた車の位置からは問題の事故現場ははっきりと見えたわけじゃないはずなんです。いや、注意深く見れば柵が破損していたのを気づけたかもしれない。でもですよ、目が覚めたら両親がいないのを知って真っ先に崖下へ転落したというのは尋常ではないと思うんです。
Well, that's a pretty good logical deduction right there.
普通は両親が自分を置いてどこかに散歩に行ってしまい戻ってこないというはずなんです。転落する直接の現場を見てもいないのに、両親が転落したと第三者にいきなり言うのがね、この辺りどうして彼女は両親が転落したと確信したのか、その経緯を教えてもらいたいと思いまして通い詰めているところだったんですよ。入院前に私も何度かお尋ねはしているんですが記憶にない。当時は混乱していたと、まるでどこかの政治家みたいな答弁でしてね。
Well, to be fair, Ushi, she certainly has a much better laugh than any other politician on earth.
私はじっくり話をしてみる価値があるかなって思っていたんですよ。
That terrifying possibility has turned to certainty in my head. I'd assumed that her parents' accident triggered her terminal symptoms. But no. Satoko-chan had already gone terminal, and just before the accident, her heart was filled with paranoia that drove her mad. She was under a lot of stress because of her bad relationship with her stepfather. She was also being scolded by her mother for not being able to get along with him. If that made her paranoid, made her think her parents considered her to be a bother and were going to kill her. When they went to the viewing platform, she must have thought they were going to push her off the cliff. Then a tragedy took place, and she pushed her parents off instead, although she considered it to have been self-defense. I'm certain of that, because I know Hinamizawa syndrome better than anybody. This accident isn't an accident. It isn't a crime either, like Wushi is thinking. It is simply a tragedy. When I talked to Satoshi-kun about the family, I was even more convinced. He told me even though Satoko-chan refused to open up to her stepfather, he had tried to communicate with her. It's true the relationship didn't go well in the beginning. Satoko-chan caused trouble repeatedly, and even called the city's child abuse hotline. At that point, they received guidance from the Child Consultation Center, and they pointed out that the problem lay in lack of communication between daughter and stepfather. So the stepfather took a parenting course under a social worker's guidance, and awkward though it was, he made efforts to communicate with her. Satoshi-kun noticed his efforts, so he tried to talk to Satoko-chan about it. Hence that earlier fragment where we saw him trying to do just that, but given her reactions, she was likely suffering from Hinamizawa syndrome right then and there too. But Satoko-chan didn't notice them at all. The excessive stress she was under triggered terminal symptoms, and she couldn't understand her stepfather's remorse. On the contrary, her stepfather's change created even more mistrust within her. As a result, they went to enjoy the beautiful view of the Shirakawa Nature Park as a family, and to share in that joy. Yet that humble, ordinary family's wish couldn't even get through to Satoko-chan. What a tragic misunderstanding. Satoko-chan stayed in the car, telling her parents that she wanted to sleep, but then she got out and snuck up behind them. I bet he heard her footsteps. He pretended not to notice her, thinking that she was doing that to surprise him. It's just sad thinking about what must have ran through his mind. While he thought he had finally gone through to her, she was actually approaching him with the intent to kill. But that's not Satoko-chan's true nature. It's the disease. Satoko-chan isn't the only one who is to be pitied. Her parents are its victims too. And now, Wushi thinks she's a criminal. Judgment and punishment are rewarded for crimes of malicious intent. What she really needs is understanding and sympathy. And no one has that understanding. Except for me, because I know about Hinamizawa syndrome. I am the director of the Ch.8 Institute, but I've never behaved as such or exercised that authority. But I'm going to do so for the first time since taking the position. I'm not doing it as the head of the Ch.8 Institute, the secret research organization. I'm doing it as a doctor, so I can protect Satoko-chan.
白川自然公園の聡子ちゃんの両親の転落事故ですが、この件事故で決着するように山犬のお好みさんにお願いしてもらうことはできますか？
ええ、そんなことお安いご用ですわよ。山犬はそういうものの隠蔽や捏造に最も特化した部隊ですもの。確かに早くあの転落事故が事故ということに決着しないと警察がうちの実験体に近づいて邪魔ですものね。
そういうことです。特に大石さんがこの件から早く引き上げるよう試薬投与実験のデリケートな時期です。不要な辛労をかけるのは適当ではありませんので。
まったくですわね。山犬にそのように伝えますわ。警察にもすでにコネクションがあるとのことなので圧力をかけるよう指示しましょう。
That definitely then explains all the instances when the police dropped several cases throughout the story. From that deviant who was suspected of killing Satoshi's aunt to this. It was all the mountain dogs' work.
近日中に白川転落事故は事故として
Well, at least I'm-
確定することになると思いますわ。
Well, at least I'm assuming in the case of that drug deviant that it's definitely true for him as well. At this point, I don't really have any reason to suspect otherwise, given everything else I know so far. With that, it was declared an accident. If only it really was one, it would have eased Satoko-chan's soul. Getting rid of the pathogen can't heal that wounded soul, nor can it ease the tragedy that had already taken place. All I can do is my best, so the day she regains her smile comes sooner. Well, as far as I'm concerned, all this particular fragment ended up doing was confirming what I already logically deduced from that earlier fragment from Satoko's point of view. Still tragic all the same. Well, I was expecting to learn more about the actual murders of Orishiro-sama's curse. But I mean, hey, all the stuff I've actually learned about Satoko and all that, it's all very important information too. So, progress is progress. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go ahead and cut things off here, and we can continue connecting the fragments some more in the next episode. Going by how many I see here, I'm willing to wager it'll probably take at least 2 more episodes. Probably 3. Before we can finally get through all these ones, but I'll have to wait and see, I guess. For all I know, most of these ones here, for example, could end up being really short. But again, only time will tell. I hope you guys enjoyed this latest episode of Higurashi When It Cried High, Chapter 8. I almost said 7 for a second. If you did and you want to see more content from me, feel free to subscribe to my channel. I will see you all next time. Take care.